Let's see what's going on. Let's give her a chance to whirl it out. Let's go.
So everybody, let's say hi to attorney Courtney Kramer. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so Courtney, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, Kayla, for having me on the show tonight. Sorry, it took my camera a little bit longer to get connected than I thought it was going to take. A couple things about myself. I am born and raised actually in Fulton County. Lived here for 31 years. I went to Milton for high school up in Alpharetta. And I went to Milledgeville for my undergrad, majored in political science. Then I went to Emory for law school. And about that, during my time at Emory, I actually worked in the Office of White House Counsel. I came back to Atlanta after interning there between my second and third year, finished law school at Emory, moved to DC for a year, worked up there, and came back down here, and I did election law for about the last 2.5, 3 years. And so that's kind of a brief background about myself. Obviously, there's a lot of other things I've done, and I'm happy to talk more about those, but I don't want to bore everybody. I definitely think that people want to ask me questions and get to the root of why I'm running for this office.
Okay.
All right. Let me stop before Kayla responds. Your story of how you got here to this point is very, very important. I don't think you should minimize it and say that it's going to bore people, because that's who you are. That's what brought us to this point. And so I don't want to say, well, hey, I don't want to bore you. Now, truly, I'm not going to get into the haze and the malaise of every year and every quarter of my life at Morehouse, but I am going to give you a good overlay, because some of the things that come out of that are what is driving this conversation today. So I don't want to just minimize that and say, it's not really that important. But later on, you'll hear that it really was important. So I don't think that's a good approach, but okay. I mean, she gave us a good story though. Let's go.
I know me and you talked a little bit, and we have come to the consensus, Courtney and I, that today we want to take just a few minutes to see what you guys want to know, what it's going to take for her to prove to you guys that she is the best person for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and how she can earn your trust. So today I want you guys to put as many questions as possible in the chat. Your concerns, your questions, we are going to go through them. I'm going to ask some questions that I know a lot of you guys have been asking. And I'm going to start with the first question is, can you tell us your position on the open RICO with Trump?
Absolutely. So I've been very vocal about this position pretty much since the first day that I qualified back in March. I would completely recuse myself from that case because I have a...
Real quick. Did y'all hear that? She said March. Therein is the problem. She's been campaigning and she's been qualified to run since March. And this is why I'm saying that Fani Willis is running unopposed, because young lady has been running since March. So let's just do that quick math. April, May, June, July, August. We're in August. It's 5 months. 150 days have passed since she qualified to today. Let's just say it for easy math. And I don't understand how for 150 days you haven't gotten any campaign ads out. You haven't done any pressers. You haven't done anything that would demonstrate that you're running. I don't think Fani Willis is sweating about this. So let's go ahead. The problem is Vanderveer. The problem is people don't know about her. People don't know her name. Apart from her putting out that tweet, which again took nothing to put out. It didn't take any time for her to put it out. I mean, she literally could have put that out while she's sitting at the dinner table. Why didn't you do that 150 days ago? That would have changed the whole game. If she had said that early on, like, part of my platform is we're not going to use RICO as a weapon. We're not going to use RICO to retell stories and create narratives that we want to tell and that we want to people to believe. That would have been different. But let her go, Jason. Let her go.
Conflict of interest. It's not a secret that I worked in the White House. It's not a secret that I worked for Trump during 2020 as a consultant, not as a lawyer, but as a consultant. And it's also not a secret that I worked for, I was an associate with Smith and List, so Ray Smith, who is a current defendant in that case. So I would 100% recuse myself from that case. That's all I can say about it. And past that, I wouldn't dismiss the case. I can't do that. So I would be not involved in that case whatsoever.
Okay. And everybody, of course, knows about the press release you put out a week and a half or so ago regarding the YSL case. Can you just touch bases on that and how you got to that decision?
Absolutely, Kayla. I can see some of these comments. So I see people asking, why I waited until now to kind of do or, release that statement. I'm going to be honest. I thought that the case would have kind of been dismissed by this point. And prior to me running for office, I could totally say she should have dismissed this case, but no one's going to listen to me at all. I was, I'm basically, the average voter in Fulton County. But what I've seen the last 3 years and what I saw under the Paul Howard administration in the DA's office is that Paul Howard even declined to take this case up. He even declined to prosecute this case 2 times. There's a reason for that. And that's because there's a lack of evidence. There's a lack of credibility in this matter. And there's no reason to have the taxpayers of Fulton County pay for this case for 3+ years at this point with, we still have 100 witnesses or, 100 some odd witnesses to go. That's ridiculous. We have so many more cases we should be prosecuting or finding, the root and finding justice for victims that are, languishing because of the lack of prosecution all across the board in Bonnie's office. This case is a waste of taxpayer dollars. It is a complete political move by her office. We all know that. That's not a secret. And, Kayla, next time we talk about this, on your podcast during this week, I believe that we'll do it sometime this week. We'll get into the root of, what's actually going on. She's not prosecuting, young thug Jeffrey Williams properly at all. She's picking and choosing who she's prosecuting, especially related to these RICO cases. And that's not right. And the people of Fulton County deserve way better.
Okay. You know what? I like the way she said that. And my only pushback is the YSL trial is just the marquee. It's just the one that everybody's noticing. But how many other YSL trials or cases are out there? And I think if she just dug into the fact that Paul Howard turned this down, I didn't know he turned it down twice. I knew he turned it down once for sure. Why didn't she talk about, hey, there's so many other cases that we need to get out of the system because they're clogging up the system. And when there's not enough evidence, we can't do this. And I think it would have been a great point to point out it's not just the YSL trial. It's the not yet YSL trials. It's the other trials that nobody will ever hear because Jason is broke. And I can't afford a Brian Steele. I'm going straight to jail. That's just what it is. So maybe if she had pointed that out, I think she would have resonated a little bit better. Because again, it's not just the YSL trial. It is the poor planning. It's the poor evidence. There's so many errors that they're making. I think she should have pointed that out and also pointed out this is why Paul Howard didn't deal with it. This is why Paul Howard didn't address it twice. So why did Fonnie do it?
Important. Can you answer this question? Because I wanted you guys to at least get to see Courtney and Kramer and know her and put a face with the name. And you guys have just been asking me. So I'm going to go through these questions, but some of the most important ones I'm going to let her answer.
All right, wait, Kayla, are you wanting me to read this one or?
This question, answer this one. Can you see it?
There was 107,000 ballots cast in the primary. That one. How does she plan to engage voters with only receiving 18,000 votes? Great question. And let's be very honest here. I obviously qualified as a Republican. I am a Republican. That there's no secret with that. And when you qualify to run for DA, you qualify. It's a partisan primary, right? Republicans historically have lower voter turnout during the primary. That's no secret. And so I think that is just the 18,000 votes, you're doing your research there. Voting in the primaries at all. And that's purely based on just voter turnout. And I think that, a lot of people don't realize there's a primary that happens. They're like, oh, wow. You won your primary. When's your election? Obviously, it's in November. You have a much higher voter turnout in November. And I think that doing that, getting my voice out there, talking, to people in the community, getting on podcasts like Kayla's, talking to you guys, and answering your questions and really letting you guys know I'm here for you. I'm not here to, climb the political ladder at all. I like I said, I'm born and raised in Fulton County. I'm here for you guys. I want everyone to, tell me their concerns, what you guys want to see out of your DA, because your DA at the end of the day should be advocating for you and you only, not for themselves. And so getting that message out there. And I think by November 5th, at least by October 15th, which is when early voting starts, we will have a much higher voter turnout. And, 18,000 votes, like I said, that's the Republican primary ballot. And the general election, you obviously have way more voters. And I think you're going to see a crossover vote in this race for sure. I think you're going to have a handful of voters who are, registered Democrats or independents that vote whoever they want to vote for on the ballot above me. And then it comes down to the ballot. And I think you have so many people fed up with what's happening in Fulton County that they will cross over that vote and they will vote for somebody else besides Bonnie Willis. And the only other person on that ballot is me, Courtney Kramer. And I'm actually on the top of that ballot for that race. And so I think that you're going to see a much higher turnout than 18,000 votes like you did in the primary.
I have a question.
Okay, so what did y'all think about that answer? Somebody said I need to let her speak it all the way out. See, Aaron is already in my mind. But what did y'all think about that answer? Voter turnout is low during primaries, which is true. That is a true statement. I think most of us agree and understand that. More turnout during elections, especially during a presidential election. Absolutely, I got you there. But what y'all think about that? Okay, Future said it's giving word salad. Okay, I like how Mo said, what has she done in the past for Fulton County? I think that's a great question. And of course, Aaron was looking at my notes right here. She said, what is the plan to engage though? What is the actual plan? And I think that's the part that is missing from this. I totally get what she's saying. All those other reasons why maybe it was a lower turnout. But just to say, I believe there's going to be crossover vote, what makes you believe that? Like, I believe there'll be a Maserati parked in my garage when I go look at my garage. Well, what's my rationale for believing that though? What am I using to help me to say there's going to be a Maserati in my garage? Well, there should be some, hopefully, Lady Dear World Christians buying me a Maserati because she tore up my upstairs about that bug earlier, right? So it's a gift. That would make sense. Problem is, I kind of know what Lady Dear World Christians finances are looking like, so I don't think that's going to happen. So, like, what is your rationale for saying that? You can say that. You can say that till the cows come home. How do you make that statement, though? All right, let's see what we got here. She just is not building momentum. But she said October 15th. So let's just pretend that today is August 15th. She has 60 days. Okay. Okay. That's the base question. I do think she kind of danced around that question. All right, let's see. It shines through. Inexperience, it shines through. She said, my name will be at the top of the ballot because of my name being Kramer. I made it right. But no, it starts with a K. So, but still, it would be above Willis. So I got your point. Yes. Excuses, and she doesn't know how to punt to her agenda. Her agenda right now is to steal votes with false hopes. Man, I love it. All right, let's finish this up. Okay, let's go.
Too. A lot of people are asking, if you were elected DA, would you keep the current prosecutors that are on this case? Would you allow them to work under your administration?
So that's honestly, Kayla, not a question that I would answer right now until I get into that office at all. I've never met with them personally. I don't know. I don't know them personally, and I actually don't even, we don't know what evidence they have, sitting in front of them as they prosecute this case. So that's not something I would even, respond to or even consider until I get elected into that office. Then I would sit and make the best assessment I could with the people around me. And I think that's the only way that you can determine who would stay on this case, if this case stays.
Right. I was going to say, I thought you were going to get rid of it. I thought you were going to punt the case. So, yeah, because it doesn't sound like that. She's not giving that she's shutting it down. Or maybe she's saying hey, you shut it down, but are you going to keep them in the building? Are they going to still be able to work for you at all? Maybe that's what she's trying to say. Where is her recusal story? She said she was going to recuse herself from the Trump trial. So I don't know. That's what she said. But at the same time, you dropped the case. See, y'all picking it up. Y'all picking up what she throwing down or whatever she did.
Okay, so the question is, I don't know. So how do you feel about defendants being prosecuted for drugs in jail when no one is addressing how the drugs got in the jail to begin with? So there's actually kind of I think not an ongoing investigation, but I was actually this past week, I was watching a hearing in the Senate about the prisons and about there being a huge issue with drones, drones and cell phones and the communications coming in and out of our prison system. And of course, that trickles down into our county jails as well. That is, here's the thing is that's like a twofold question, right? The problem is that no one is addressing how the drugs are getting into the jail to begin with. That's an issue. What's happening on Rice Street is terrifying. And that jail alone is an issue. We all know that. The resources that are going into that jail are not being used what they should be used for in any way, shape, or form. Everybody should be concerned about that. And I think that first, we would have to fix the problems with the drugs getting into the jail, and that's obviously, that's happening from outside influence. Some people that work in the jail, I don't know that personally. That's just kind of a conclusion that you can make from the drugs getting into the jail. How else would they get inside the jail? That has to be addressed first and foremost before you then address the issue with the defendants who are getting prosecuted or in trouble again for having drugs inside the jail. We have to be more vocal about that. That's a huge problem. And I don't think that, ignoring the problem is not going to get rid of the problem. And that's what's been happening for the last 3+ years.
Okay.
What y'all think about that? And Tasha you already hit the nail right on the head. This is exactly where I was going. Tasha just said she hasn't thought these things out. No, because she needs to work with Sheriff Labatt, who's responsible for the jail. And they need a comprehensive rewire and resolve this issue before you start. Because I do think it's kind of weird that you would charge an inmate in jail because they have drugs, but how do they get into jail? But this is not there's two problems that are going simultaneously together. And I think you have to reach out to the other side and get their support to help you with that, in my opinion. If this race was statewide, if it was a statewide race, this vagueness might float, but this is not going to be good enough to move Fulton County voters away from Vonnie. I'm just going to let that sit right there because I agree with you 100%. So she doesn't have a plan for the prison. No. Oh, and by the way, literally, there, I did a whole video about drones and Rice Street. Yeah, they are getting in and flying drones into the building. It is crazy. So yeah, it's wild. She can't campaign against folks in the current role. I agree. Very clear and concise plan is necessary. I agree at all. Okay, she's starting. She is starting. The problem is she has 60 days. Actually, she has 50 days because today's the 25th. And elections and voting starts on the 15th of October.
And I think that a lot of people feel like anything may be better than what we have right now, but their hesitation is, why YSL? And me and you spoke about this over the weekend, and I think that I know why you say YSL. I mean, because you can't say Trump because of the conflict, but YSL is the next biggest thing. And it's not like you can just go from courtroom to courtroom and handpick cases and say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, or this is wrong, this is wrong. So YSL, I would say, is what you know. And from our conversation, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's my position that you even intend on, so I guess kind of seeing what's going on for yourself. Is that the case?
Yeah, YSL was something I felt like it was one of the, like I said earlier, in the, when we first started talking, 10 plus minutes ago, it's kind of the right time to make that statement about YSL. At this point, it's been going on for so long, and now we're on our third judge. Someone's got to say something at this point. And that's not necessarily the first statement I've made about Fani Willis or that office at all. I've been doing media for 3+ years about Fani Willis. That was just the first statement that kind of, got a lot of attention. And so there's been many other statements I've made about her and what's going on in that office and the cases going on in that office. It wasn't just YSL. That was just kind of the first one that happened to garner a lot of attention because I'm running against Fani Willis, if that makes sense. And I do think, and you kind of said it, we'll talk later this week about this, but I do think she's definitely picking and choosing cases she's prosecuting, in my opinion, for personal gain, for personal reasons, which is just disgusting. You don't get to pick who you apply the laws to. You don't. You apply the law evenly throughout your cases. And it's not a secret that she has applied the law differently to Lucci, like she versus Young Thug. That's no secret. And for those who don't know about that, like I said, we will talk about that later this week and kind of get into the nuts and bolts of those cases, and the comparison of the two. And there's just so many things in that office that I think people are turning a blind eye to, or they just don't know about, because what her office is coming out, like, her press releases or her statements, someone's got to call those out. And I think that this was just one of those things that garnered enough attention that's, it wasn't really the first statement I made about Fani. It was just the first one that people started paying attention to.
And did you know that she wrote a letter in support of YFN? And a lot of you guys know she wrote of the current district attorney, Fani Willis, wrote a letter in support of rapper YFN Lucci to be released on parole at the first opportunity available. To me, I thought that it was extremely shocking because this is the rival gang and the rival gang leader of the current case that you're prosecuting in the public eye. But I found out that was actually a part of Lucci's plea deal. And the only way that he would take a plea was if she agreed to do that. So that was interesting to me. Okay, I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions.
Yeah.
What do you see as the top 3 most important issues to help Fulton County, and how would you go about solving those?
Okay. I think this should have been a question from the beginning, but let's just see where she goes. Says, because this is really interesting and I've never heard this.
So I will briefly answer this, but I will say that one of my top things is prioritizing community safety. I am born and raised in Fulton County, and our county is just not safe. We are the largest county in Georgia. We have the most resources of any county in the state, and we should be the safest county. The capital of Georgia is in our county, and yet somehow, some way, the area around the Capitol and in the Fulton County Courthouse is one of the most unsafe areas in Georgia. That should never happen. You should be able to feel safe getting out of your car, parking on the street, going into Phipps or Lenox or wherever, or parking at Piedmont Park to go on a run. I used to do that all the time. I don't do those kinds of things anymore because it's just not safe. The second we decide to prioritize the safety of our community over, prosecuting rappers for fame, whatever you want to call it, that is when we will see a change in Fulton County. Another thing, and I hate to say this, I don't hate to say this, but people are going to say it just sounds cliche like a politician, but we've got to have some transparency in that office. I think that we kind of saw once Fonnie took the stand in the Trump case when Ashley Merchant was questioning Fonnie, there was a huge lack of transparency that came out. As a taxpayer in Fulton County, you should know exactly where your taxpayer dollars are going towards and who they're going towards and what they are going to help or how they are going to help you, not how they are going to help someone's boyfriend or someone's personal life or whatever. We have, I guess at the time that the Trump case was kind of brought about, we had 4,000 untested rape kits in Fulton County. That's terrifying. As a female, that's terrifying. That means that those, there's 4,000 victims or however many victims that are languishing and they don't have justice. They are just sitting there. And there's potentially 4,000 people out there, not necessarily in Fulton County, but all over Georgia, because Fulton County decided to use money to hire a special prosecutor versus, process those rape kits. That's horrible. We've got to get our priorities straight with that. And that's another thing that, one of my third things or points, like you asked Ashley B, this office is not political way. This is a position, as the DA, you are the seeker of truth. You are the, administrator of finding justice for victims all across the board, no matter the political spectrum. And that has not happened the last 3 years at all. People say that the murders have gone down or the petty theft has gone down in Fulton County. Well, it's going to go down when you don't prosecute those kinds of cases. That's just simple math. And so I think that we've got to take the political aspect out of this job. And your job is to prosecute criminals. That is the sole purpose of your job, and to keep your community safe. So those three things would be my priorities.
And this will be the last question. Should the case be the YSL case? It doesn't say that, but I'm sure that's what we're referring to. Should the case be dismissed with prejudice after the Brady violations and the ex parte? So I guess they want to know, what is your reason for wanting to dismiss the case?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily. Okay, so and Kayla, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you've watched it a little bit more than I have, but I don't know if they actually were like, if there was Brady violations found. I think that they were told, if you guys don't turn over this evidence, then there's going to be a problem.
No, there are Brady violations every day.
They were okay. Well,
I don't know who's to say that they were found, but
Okay. Well, I thought Judge Whitaker had just said, this is an issue. Let's fix this issue. But this case should 100% be dismissed with prejudice. Previously, Paul Howard declined to bring this case. This case shouldn't even be happening right now for good reason, as we've seen, because of these violations, because of the ex parte communications. There are, not to mention the amount of times every Judge Whitaker and Glanville, I'm pretty sure both said, y'all have it, or y'all, the collective, y'all, the state has not prepared for this trial at all. They come consistently unprepared every single day. That is a complete waste of time, money, and resources for the county. And all of these judges and the investigators and the ADAs on this case can be doing so much more to help Fulton County besides continuing to prosecute this case.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here. And I have told Courtney personally that, I stand behind her. And one of my reasons for standing behind her is because I see what this office has done to multiple defense attorneys that have outstanding reputations. And if this is what is being done to defense attorneys who are members of the bar, I can't even imagine what is happening to defendants that we don't know about and that aren't on national TV. And I also think that, some of my defendants have been treated unfairly. And yeah, it's just really saddening to me. So at this point, I continue. Now, I stand behind Courtney, and I think she is qualified. I think she's going to do a great job. But at the end of the day, you guys have to understand, you just want to talk about voting for the president and voting for this. We have to vote locally. We have to vote for judges. We have to vote for people because you can't be upset about this YSL trial when you don't vote and you don't even know who's running. And I think that Courtney has a great opportunity. I think she has said some great things. She has my full support. And I know that she has the full support of a lot of very smart lawyers who I look up to. And I am so grateful because this is not an easy task. It's very hard. And I'm thankful that she has stepped up to the plate and is willing to take on this challenge. And I hope that you guys support her because I'll be supporting her.
Thank you, Kayla. I really appreciate that.
Internet. And so I think that you put your money where your mouth is, and her showing up definitely shows that this is not a game.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me, Kayla.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll see you later this week.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was Kayla Bumpus's interview of Courtney Kramer. I want to hear what y'all thought about it.